roots are coming off the ground, and the leaves colored brown. You want someone to stick around. Followed you, heard you spoke the lesson that I had learned. Misty heart in your heart, I'll be there anywhere you want. Troubles coming on the way, but you can still walk them through. It's all we do. The world is waiting for you. You've been lost, you've been found, and now you're starting having fun. You won't choke, you won't drown. We'll be together in the sun. Troubles coming on the way, but you can still walk them through. It's all we do. The world is waiting for you. Troubles coming on the way, but you can still walk them through. It's all we do. The world is waiting for you.
Hello, 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 everyone. Dr. Rowena Winkle here, and this is Astrology Conversations with Dr. Rowena. That's me. Apologize for starting a little bit late, even though at the time of this recording, Mercury retrograde is over. I suppose we're still in the retro shade / I don't know. I'm in my third trimester of being pregnant, and I totally went in the wrong green room area for this conversation. So, you know what? We're just gonna roll with it because today I have an amazing friend, guest, entrepreneur, badass, Taurus queen, Hannah Jefferson. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your patience as I apparently didn't go to the right place.
It is all good. Thank you for having me. And I went to Google Meet first, if we remember. So I was in the wrong too. So, we're just rolling with it.
I think this is a great lesson as we're talking about Taurus energy and Taurus season, right? Just, not sweating the small stuff, being slow and steady, not getting amped up, not getting, flustered about. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you as someone who definitely embodies that earth energy that I know that someone like me definitely needs. So I'm very excited about it.
And it's always a practice, right? Because,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
actually have been reminding myself a lot recently, just with a lot of things going on in life. I just keep coming back to don't sweat the small stuff. And,
Yes.
that's all we can do.
Receive. So I always start off by asking my guest what their big three are, right? In terms of astrology, your sun, your moon, and your rising. So could you share with the folks what those are?
Yes. So I am a Taurus sun, a Gemini moon, and a Libra rising.
Ooh, fascinating. So, in terms of that and in terms of what you know about astrology, and obviously we can chat more about that and go in a little detail. How do you feel that you embody those aspects in your chart?
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely feel a lot of Taurus energy in my day to day. It's very important for me to have. You'll see if you can see behind me in my house. It's like lots of cozy pillows and plants and lighting, and like it's very, I love traveling and all of that, but I'm definitely more of a homebody. I like
Yeah.
to have my earthly things. I love cultivating a beautiful space. I can be very stubborn, and my boyfriend John will tell you, he'll be the first to say that I like to dig my heels in.
Mm.
And so being flexible is a thing that I'm learning to be better about.
Yeah.
But definitely being grounded is my state of health.
Mm.
And and so
Mm.
I know when I'm not grounded that something is out of whack somehow, and it's like, okay, Hannah, we need to come back to center. So that earth energy is definitely something that's very, very much present in my day to day.
I love that. Being grounded is my state of health. I'm gonna retweet that. RT, put it on. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that
Yeah,
quote.
yeah, and I think it's really important for all of us, to know what our state of health looks like, and like if we can embody it in a word or a couple words or even a sentence, to kind of have that as a touchstone and an anchor,
Yes.
so that we know when, because it's so easy to, especially in our culture today, to burn ourselves out and to just like not pay attention to what's going on in the back of our minds, and to just like
Mm.
power through the hard things that we're going through. And it's and so it's easy sometimes to get lost in the hubbub of it all.
Yeah.
But to have that touchstone to say, okay, like I'm not feeling grounded at all, something is not right.
Hmm.
Something is
Mm.
not
Yeah,
right in Whoville. So
for sure. And then you said you have a Gemini moon?
I do, and that's
Interesting.
that's something that I'm starting to learn more about, a little
Yeah.
bit. I'd love to discuss that,
Yeah.
because I definitely feel like, Gemini, the twin sisters, I definitely feel that, duality
Howdy.
energy for myself,
Yeah.
especially just in people I spend time with, how I think about myself,
Yeah.
um, just there's a lot there that I'm beginning to explore in terms of just like how I show up in the world, how I see myself, my
Yeah.
monologue. There's definitely a lot of duality that comes through there.
Sure, sure. Yeah. So it's interesting, especially because we're going to be moving into Gemini season in just a couple of days, right? Gemini, as you mentioned, it has that duality, seeing things from multiple angles. And also Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is that the great communicator, right? So having communication. So do you feel, because as you probably know, right? And we've talked about that moon sign is that stability, that security, what makes you feel
Mhm.
safe, what makes you feel at home. Are you one of those people that likes to have like deep conversations to feel in connection with people?
Yes, definitely. And I have a hard time, and I think that's where my Taurus and my Gemini come together. Like if I like, for example, if my boyfriend and I get in an argument about something, I like need to suss it out, and I need to converse, and I need to
Oh,
figure it out before I can let it go. And if I can't, then I get really frustrated, and like that stubborn Taurus energy comes in. And actually, it's funny in terms of when you say deep conversation. When we first started dating, we would be like out at the bar, and he would look over and he would be like, "What is going on?" Because he's like, people just find you and just they don't even know you, and they just start having these deep ass conversations. And it's like, who is this girl and what is going on? Like, I feel like I definitely attract that a lot.
yeah.
I'm not the type to have small talk. Like I can do it, but it bores me. And
Sure,
I'll-
sure. No, I get that. I'm the same way. I love to make friends everywhere.
Mhm.
So that's amazing. And I think that ties to that Libra rising because Libra is the scales, again, that duality, it's
Mhm.
relationships. So the fact that, the rising is kind of what you project outward, people are like, huh, she seems like
Yeah.
someone friendly that I could tell my whole life story to.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and that happens a lot for sure.
That's so fun. Well, you just have such an openness. And again, like as we open this,
Mhm.
the that grounding energy. So there's just a calming, like security and again, very Taurus, right? Energy
Mhm.
about you that
Mhm.
I think makes a lot of folks feel welcome and
Mhm.
feel, comfortable sharing and being vulnerable with you. So I think it's such a beautiful gift.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of gifts, can you tell us how, your astrology has led you to the work that you do now as an acupuncturist? And full
Mhm.
disclosure, Hannah is my acupuncturist and she's amazing. And we'll talk about all that in, a little bit later. But yeah, what led you on this path to discover acupuncture and the other, alternative healing modalities that you incorporate in your business?
Yeah, yeah. So for me, and I think for a lot of folks in the healing industry, it started because I was a patient first, dealt with a lot of really intense anxiety as a young person, and still ride the waves to this day, but
Sure.
with more ease than I used to. Um, and I tried a lot of different things, talk therapy, different forms of exercise, medication, all kinds of stuff.
Mm.
And my mom suggested I go to her acupuncturist, and I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" I'm like, "Okay, I'll try anything. I like can't sleep, whatever." And so I tried it, and it was like the first time that I felt this surge of energy through my
Mm.
body. I felt this deep sense of calm, this deep sense of grounding in a way that I I'd felt calm and grounded before, but from a treatment sort of scenario, I'd never experienced that sort of rush through my body.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit, I have to learn more about this. This is going to be
Yes.
part of the equation. Um, and then, it kept showing up in my life. I continued with treatment. After getting my degree, in psychology, I always knew that I wanted to do something in the healing industry. I wanted to help others, feel better in all kinds of ways. And for
Sure.
me, this work in particular, there is a lot of talking involved. We do have conversations. It is always my goal to have something start to move before we even get on the table,
Sure.
if it's applicable that day. And it's energy healing and everything that has come with my acupuncture career, and just like all the things that we learn, um, has just been so rewarding, because it's about the needles, it's about the treatment, but it's also about so much more than that.
Yeah. So what are some of your favorite aspects of
Mhm.
acupuncture and how you treat your clients?
Yeah. So I love one of the things that I love teaching people, and then reinforcing with acupuncture, is the connection between your body and mind, and
Mm.
how symptoms show up, and how the more connected we are, and the more proactive we care for our body, mind, spirit, the
Yes.
quicker like what I said in the beginning, having your touch point to like when things are out of balance, having that connection and that dialogue with yourself, so that when things do come up, as life always does, it's the goal is not to never have stress again, and just state of blank beigeness.
Yeah.
Life is going to show up, and having that deep connection, that deep
Mm.
relationship with your body and mind, and knowing how they are linked, and how, when they're in health versus not, how that can show up, and what we can do to kind of come back to center,
Yeah.
through this work, is I think one of my favorite things to discuss with
It
patients.
is really cool, and I know that in the years that I've worked with you, I've nerded out just asking you questions on, so
Mhm.
this is happening and just seeing how it all holistically ties together
Yeah.
is so cool. What Okay, let's say that there's someone that's saying, "Hannah, I have no idea how to, I'm so disconnected from myself." Do you have
Mhm.
any tips on how to re-engage and really tap in and be able to know when things are coming up, or, how to get in touch on a more holistic from a more holistic health perspective?
Yeah, yeah. And is this, I guess my follow-up question would be,
Yeah.
are you looking for more of an answer when like someone's in a state of freak out, or just like, I'm chilling, I don't really know that much, and I want to start to foster this
Yeah, I think the latter more than the former because I
dialogue?
don't know. I don't know about folks out there, but I know for me, I'd much rather be proactive than be in
Yeah,
a state of crisis or
exactly.
freak out. I'd
Yeah,
much
yeah,
rather have something ongoing that can be more consistent, you know?
yeah, absolutely. So perfect. Well, and I mean, I think this is applicable to either way, but I will focus it from that sort of lens.
Sure.
I mean, number one thing is to spend more time outside, because
Mm,
one of the foundations of Chinese medicine is that we are a reflection of nature, and nature is a reflection of us.
I love that.
And so, we're so busy in our modern world that we forget that what is happening outside is also happening internally.
Mm,
And that's why, when we look to, like, right now, it's summer, spring is in full bloom. We're starting to, think about summer, and we feel that rising energy in our
yeah,
bodies.
yeah, for
We're
sure.
feeling more expansive. We're opening the windows. We're, wanting to, like, move our bodies and reconnect with, you know, tasks and ideas, and, things for, our business and our lives that we maybe had put on the back burner for winter time.
Sure.
So, and, like, you, as someone who is more of a novice in connecting and all of that, you'll learn all of that, what each season does, and how that reflects on us, and we can talk about that. But just from a basic jumping off point, just
Sure.
go outside each season and observe what's going on, and then see
Mm,
how that reflects in you, in terms of how energized you're feeling, and, how you're feeling emotionally,
mm.
how much sleep you're feeling like you need, those sorts of things. And within that, doing a check-in every day. Like, people, we don't check in with ourselves enough, I think.
Yeah, true.
Like, how would I rate my energy today? Like, how is my emotional health today? Am I
Mm,
hungry? Am I thirsty? Do I, need to move? Like, literally
mm.
just start. It sounds cheesy, but, like, looking down and being like, hey, body, like, what do you need today?
Yeah.
What's going on? How can I assist you
I
in that?
love it. It reminds me of when my husband and I tell our 3-year-old, like, "Talk to your tummy. Are you still hungry?
Mhm.
Do you want more
Yeah.
food?" Like, it's a similar sort of vibe for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, because we live so much from the neck up, and we're thinking and processing and ruminating, and, our brains are a magical, beautiful computer, and we so often forget that there's this whole other meat suit from the
Yeah.
shoulders down that also has so much wisdom to share.
So much wisdom, and we can learn so much from our bodies, and I know for me personally, it was, engaging more in yoga when I was in my 20s and felt like I needed to slow down, that I gained that body awareness, and then,
Mhm.
meeting you and just learning these things has been so,
Mhm.
so helpful because you're right, we are, like, so
We're
up
all like there.
here.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Mhm.
Um, so I I would love to get some, and I know we chatted about this because for those of you that don't know or weren't hanging out with us back in 2020 primo COVID times,
Yeah.
Hannah and I used to hop on Clubhouse and
Mhm.
talk through, astrology and acupuncture and the integration of those points. Do you have any acupressure points for our friends out there who, yeah, need to get in a more let's take the other piece of it, right? Someone's like,
Mhm.
"Ah, I'm freaking out," or like, "I need to ground right now." How can we support our body through the use of acupressure?
Yes. So I would just say, from a kind of basic grounding standpoint, there's a treatment that we love to do all the time in acupuncture. We call it Gates of Buddha, and I'll add in one other point that will support it as well. So it's 5 points, and typically when I'm doing acupressure or leading someone through an acupressure session, we can press on the point. You can tap, like, you can do a deep pressure, you can tap, you can rub it, like, kind of do a massage. There's
Sure.
no right or wrong way to do it. It's whatever feels good in your body, and whatever is making that movement start to happen. So the first point is right between the eyebrows, kind of in that
Yeah.
third eye space. This point is called yin tong, and I don't know if it has an English name, but regardless, it is one of the best points for calming the mind, slowing those spinning thoughts, and just, it's also really good for kind of opening up your third eye, your intuition.
Yeah.
So reconnecting with your body, your mind, your spirit. I do this point on almost every person.
I feel like you've definitely done it to me, but like all the time.
Yeah.
We love
I
it.
mean, we all need it, and the
Yeah.
more that we can kind of open things up and relax in the mind,
Yes.
space, in the head, the easier it is to drop in and feel more physically present. And when we can get out of our heads a little bit, that helps slow everything down.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and then another great point is it's bilateral, so it's 2 points technically, 1 point on 2 sides. So it is going to be right kind of, you can actually kind of grab on the top and the bottom here. It's right in that meaty space. You can even
Ooh.
put it on your index finger.
Oh, that
This
feels
one
good.
is this one's really tender on me too right now. So like, whew, yeah, like this is a good one to kind of dig into or do some deep pressure with.
Yeah.
I would not press on it too much on yourself because you're pregnant.
Oh, just
Like
kidding.
a little bit's fine. I wouldn't. It's not one that you needle during pregnancy though.
Okay.
But it is a point in your large intestine channel. So it's helpful for regulating digestion. But it's also really, really helpful for letting go and moving stuck chi or energy.
Oh, so I can see why for a pregnant lady, that's probably
Yeah.
not a good one to
You
needle.
don't want to be moving anything yet. I mean,
Don't want to let them go yet.
actually once you're later in, you still don't. I always avoid it. Any, just in general, any forbidden point I always avoid, just because it's better to be safe. But some people say that later on certain points you can add back in, but that's to each his own. Better to be safe.
Yeah.
But yes. So this point is really, really helpful. I mean, I use it all the time, but just for moving stuck energy so that you can feel more grounded. So it's very helpful for releasing. So when we're clenching, your hands, we clench, the body, the muscles can clench. And so just helping to release all of that. And then the last point, I don't know that I would recommend just from this little treatment protocol. Obviously there's a lot. I don't know how to do it without like showing you my foot, but it's so I don't know how to like maneuver that, but it's on the top of the foot, in between the big toe and the second toe, like kind of on the top there. We can feel there's like a little soft space. Yeah. Kind of in between where the tendons are. So it's like kind of just off of the bones, the metacarpals or the metatarsals of those two toes. And that is a point on your liver channel. We call it happy calm.
Oh.
It's obviously being on your feet. It's very grounding. It helps to distend stuck chi. It's really good for headaches as well. But this point it's really good for, especially this time of year, springtime. It helps to, again, paired with the large intestine point, it helps to move stuck energy, just ground us in, and just really create a sense of ease and calm and relaxation.
Yay! So there's 3 points. You mentioned, you said large intestine, liver. Can you give Cliff Notes version of, you mentioned these different body parts and organs and whatnot. Like, how is that all related?
Yeah. So just like kind of acupuncture Reader's Digest, we have all these channels that run through our body kind of all over, and they all are correlated with different organ systems. And so along each channel or energy pathway, there's a series of points that have specific locations and specific functions. And so when we're pressing on these or needling them, we're activating those energy centers and allowing our body it's eliciting a healing response so our body can heal itself naturally. So by doing these, each organ system has different, functions that it does, in Western and in Eastern medicine ideology. But, these channels in particular are really, really good for moving stuck energy and thereby helping us feel more grounded.
I love what you said in terms of, our body can heal itself, because I know, especially we're in this culture, in Western culture and Western medicine, where we have to be so external with everything, right? I'd love for you to speak to, again, tapping in and trusting ourselves in terms of what's good for our bodies and what we need to stay healthy and more grounded.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this really comes back to, fostering. This is why I encourage my patients to foster a relationship with their own bodies, because we are so external. We don't feel well, we go to the doctor. We don't, something's wrong, we call somebody else before we even take the time to tap in and say, okay, what do I feel like is going on here?
Sure.
And so, I think that it's one of the most important things that we can do for ourselves, because so often our body is, when things go wrong, it's typically because for so long, over and over again, we've, denied our body something, or done excess something to our bodies. And so when symptoms come up, it's our body saying like, help, I need something, like I'm trying to communicate with you. And these symptoms are our messengers, right? And so it's
Yeah.
when we can learn to have that dialogue and know that our body is asking us a question, it's making a request, it's trying to communicate, then the more that we recognize that, I feel like the easier it is to understand that our body it's asking a question because it's trying to heal, and it has more than enough capability of healing itself.
It's asking a question because it's trying to heal. I love that. I love that perspective of your body saying, hey, yo, like having a conversation, a dialogue, like, hello.
Yeah. I mean, it's like when we ask a friend for help, like I'm going through a hard time. Can we talk about something? It's reaching out, and it doesn't mean there's anything has gone horribly wrong. I mean, sometimes, things can be more pathology related if it's gone on too long, but oftentimes it's just like, I need some water. I need some movement. I need some sunshine. Like, we're basically plants that have, a higher consciousness. And so oftentimes it is just fostering that relationship, and then, doing that preventative health care that, can prevent things from getting more intense, getting worse. There's so much healing that the body can do for itself before we have to add in all this other, Western stuff.
Yeah. And it's the simplicity of it. Like you said, like, I'm thirsty. Just need some water. Yeah. I'm dehydrated. Yeah.
I mean, like, I can even speak from personal experience. The amount of times I've had anxiety about something, and then or maybe I don't know why I'm anxious or whatever. And then I stop and I say, I like go through a checklist. I'm like, okay, have I eaten, and have I eaten like good food? Have I had potato chips for breakfast, or did I like actually eat something good for me? And I've done that, by the way. Like, I've had potato chips for breakfast.
I may have had potato chips for breakfast. I'm not, the cravings are real.
No shame, guys. We've all done it. But like, have I given my food nourishing food, my body nourishing food?
Yeah.
Have I had enough water? Have I moved my body recently?
Sure.
Have I stepped outside and just let the sun hit my face? Have I engaged with another human being? Like, have I had enough interaction? Just kind of going through the basic body system stuff can oftentimes, and then if one of them is missing, and I, drink enough water, or remember to take my D vitamin or whatever, then typically the symptom goes away.
Yeah.
But then if I had ignored all of that, I'd probably be taking tons of medications, or been like, oh, I need to, try this or do that, versus just a simple, like, I need some more water. I'm dehydrated, and so I'm feeling kind of shaky and crappy right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I bought this. So my plan is eventually, as you know, I moved into this house end of last year. I do want to have a setup here, like put some stuffs here. And one of the things that I found is this, which I feel is very appropriate to this conversation and this vibe.
Yeah, I love it.
Put
That's
this right here. But it's so funny because, one of my office decor is from, gosh, Hannah, I feel like when we first met each other through your sister, it is a placard thingy that says every day I'm hustling. And now I cover it up with my oracle cards because I'm like, girl, I don't need that anymore. We're not hustling.
Well, and like soapbox about hustle culture, just for a moment, like it's
Please
because
go for it.
it's so in keeping with this Taurus slow down energy. It is, I feel like, and I see it more and more in even in like wellness culture and business culture. It's like always got to be hustling. Like if you're not, you know, every moment that you're not doing something is a moment you're missing out. And like
Yeah.
literally it's so, and I get emails and texts and like there's so many podcasts out about it, about like the grind. You got to keep, you're not
Yeah.
going to get anywhere unless you hustle and grind. And I always like, and I was very much subscribed to that for a very long time. And I would always feel like I was not enough. I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't being enough. And then I stopped and I was like, let's look outside at nature. Like, let's fucking look outside at nature. Nature takes its time and everything is accomplished.
That's right.
Everything gets done. And like, yeah, there's, you know, you got to pay your bills. You got to go to work. You got to feed your kids. You got to, you know, like there's stuff you have to do. And it's all going to get done. It might not get done perfectly. It might not be, you know, the highest of the high of the, you know, best financial year you've ever had. You know, like there are different seasons for different reasons and things.
Right.
But, you know, everything will get done. And I feel like the more that we take time and space for rest, for deeper connection with ourselves, for self-care, whatever that means to you, the more energy we're going to have to go do all the things, and the more motivated we're going to feel to go, you know, reach for our dreams and, you know, accomplish the to-do list and all of that, because we've taken that time and that space that our bodies are so desperately craving and saying, hey, take care of me, you know. You're not having headaches every day for no reason,
Right.
that kind of thing.
Oh my gosh, I am so with you on this hustle culture soapbox, because as you know, I mean, it was like 30 plus years of hustling for me. And I think that having my kids has certainly slowed me down. Pregnancy has slowed me down. You know, sickness has, right? Like our bodies, as you said, our bodies are a signal, and just let us know if we're not listening. They'll be like, all right, well then you're gonna get laid out on your ass. That's certainly what's going to happen. And you know, a book that I read this past year is Rest is Resistance by Trisha Percy. She runs the Nat Ministry, and that's exactly it, that we do not have to subscribe to hustle and grind culture, that rest is more than napping. Rest is a spiritual embodiment. It's a right that we have. And that can be hard for, you know, I'm going to throw in a little human design in addition to astrology for me as a generator, right? Because as a generator, and I know you're a projector, sis. So like, as a generator, I need to be constantly going, but as a generator, it's moving in alignment to what feels good to me in my sacral, right? It's not this people pleasery, you know, hitting expectations, feeling not enough, so I have to do the mostest. It's like, no, it's really taking stock again, taking the time to slow the F down and ask myself, does this sit well with me?
Yep.
And I know for you as a projector, right? You're a projector. That's right.
Yeah. Oh, and like
rest. Like that's your vibe.
That is my state that is my natural state. And as a people pleaser perfectionist in recovery, that has been a very hard lesson. And for any projectors out there that feel tired, one of my favorite things to do is, you know, after a few hours of work, literally just laying flat on the ground for like 15 minutes. I will feel like I've chugged a coffee, but just by having that little horizontal quiet break for like, you know, once or twice a day it's so necessary. And, you know, valuing that that quiet time and downtime and knowing, like, because, you know, I'm social. I love to go out and do all the things and all of that. And that's fine. And if I do not have my quiet time, I am a cranky mess.
I would say, Hannah, I feel like in the time that I've known you over the years, you've really started to embrace and step into that Taurus cozy projector energy. You know, you really, with your snuggly pillows and whatnot, for sure.
And it's always like, that's always been me. Like, ask my mom. That's always been my natural state of being, but I think
Yeah,
I've also resisted it sometimes and been
sure.
like, I want to be a generator like everyone else and have all this energy and push myself too hard
Yeah.
and and that, it's part of accepting who you are. Or
Right, right.
knowing that you're enough and your unique being is wonderful and beautiful, and that ties into the hustle too. You don't need to be anything more than
Yes,
you
the
are.
performance, right? We don't need to be constantly
Yeah.
performing or, doing all that.
Yeah.
And as you said, yeah, we're unique beings, whether that is our astrology chart or human design
Mhm.
blueprint, right? That we have these things that make us us, and that's part of the journey of figuring out who we are and how. That's why I think these tools are just so lovely, right? They don't have to be prescriptive. It's not like, Hannah, you're a stubborn Taurus, right? But it's nuanced and it can
Yeah.
give us insight. And the same with acupuncture and knowing, the meridians and knowing the seasons and how it
Mhm.
impacts us. It's all insights that can and tools that we can use to help us tap in and feel better in our
Mhm.
bodies. I think it's so
Exactly.
cool.
Yeah. I feel better myself.
And I love I love what you mentioned about, as I'm looking outside of the woods surrounding my house, right? The
Mhm.
trees and the nature. And we have this new moon in Taurus, at the time of this recording, the new moon in Taurus is tomorrow, right? And so what are those seeds that we're going to plant? That's what the new moon's all about. It's setting those intentions and knowing that, yeah, we don't have to rush through it, right? Like
Mhm.
it doesn't
Mhm.
have to.
And knowing that oftentimes the best things do take time, and it takes layering, and it takes repetitive mindfulness
Ooh, repetitive mindfulness. What
for
does that
consistent
Yeah, what does
practice.
that mean to you? Is that just like a constant.
I mean, for me, it's knowing, being gentle with myself, and
Mm,
knowing that every time we add something new, like a new concept, a new idea, a new practice in, that it's going to be a practice at first, and
yeah.
that we if we want to pivot in some way, if we want to adopt some new way of thinking, or just way of being in our lives, that it takes consistent, repetitive mindfulness. It's almost like learning how to drive a car. I was actually just using this example earlier. When you first learn to drive a car, like, you're totally conscious, you're thinking about everything, you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And then, after a certain amount of time, you can drive somewhere and park and be like, how did I get here? Because
Right?
it's just part of who you are. It's just part of
Yeah.
it's unconscious at this point. And so, being, especially, like, anything that we've talked about today, if you are listening and you say, I want to adopt this, I want to start connecting with my body more, or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be, it's showing up and deciding to be mindful and connected again
Mm,
and again and again, and
mm.
knowing that some days you're going to be more mindful than others. Some days you're going to feel like really in tune and connected and just like juicy and awesome, and other days it's just not going to be in that same energetic, because
Yeah.
we're dynamic beings and things are always changing. But staying mindful, consistently mindful, and doing it repetitively will make it feel more and more natural, and deepen that connection more and more each time.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know, again, fellow recovering perfectionist, it can be hard and we can put so much pressure on ourselves
Mhm.
and can really beat ourselves up over it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's
Mhm.
it's practice, it's repetitive, giving ourselves grace and knowing, yeah, that there's different seasons. It's all good.
Yeah, it is. It's all happening. It's all happening for us.
So, two things I want to do before we wrap up here. So when I was in Seattle a couple weeks ago speaking at a conference, which I feel like Seattle is like a very like touristy vibes place. It's like
Mhm.
all mountainy and cute, Pacific Northwest. I went to a shop with some good friends, one of which is a client that I've worked with before, a good friend. And I got this book on goddesses and tying it to astrology, which I thought was interesting. It's and I'll put this in the show notes. 12 Faces of the Goddess, by Danielle Blackwood. Transform your life with astrology, magic, and the sacred feminine. And I was very called to this book, and I was like, I'm going to read it. And I was looking at the Taurus chapter before our conversation. And I know this is something we've talked about, and I know it's something you've talked about on your podcast. It talks about Taurus, because Taurus is a grounded but also very sensual sign. It's about, tapping in and loving on yourself and on your body and self-care. And in regards, what Blackwood talks about in terms of Taurus season is connecting with that the more sacral chakra energy, right? And our, feeling loving in our bodies, and perhaps if we've gone through trauma or whatever, how do we come back to ourselves? Because especially as women, right, we're seen as these sexual beings, but you can't be too sexy or whatever, or confident, because then you're a slut. But then right, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, because I know this is something that we've talked about and that you're very passionate about. So I wanted to give you a chance to chat.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we, just like you said, we've been conditioned as females or people who identify as female, to be very sexy, to be a certain way. There's a lot of, media pressure and, all these things, but then not too much. And I think that there's been a lot of, confusion for us, especially as young women, especially now in the social media age, where there's filters and, adjustment, there's just kind of, there's so much going on, right? It's that swirly sensation. And then, in addition, like being a survivor of, sexual trauma myself, I know that there's a lot of energy that can feel cut off in that lower area. And there's a lot of hurt that can happen there. And so, that is, for me, a huge healing. Acupuncture, there was a lot of healing, and just holistic healthcare is, it's a really gentle way to start to reconnect with that space, and to start to learn to trust that area again, to love on it for exactly what it is. And, one of my favorite things to do, just to kind of reconnect with that sacral area, is I'll put my hands kind of like this, kind of over my, like below my belly button kind of area, like that lower area. And it like forms a little bit of a heart too, which I love.
I love that.
And I'll just like lay down, have my hands there, and just like breathe, do some deep breathing into that area. So I really feel like my hands rise and fall. And just envisioning like my pelvic bowl is just filling, like my hands filling that area with like I like a warm white light, because that just feels kind of purifying, but whatever color feels healing for you. And, maybe having a mantra of some sort, like, I love you, you're safe, you're beautiful, whatever feels that opening, causes that opening sensation. And just starting to practice that, it comes back to the connection or the conversation of reconnecting with ourselves, and a gentle, slow way, knowing that, we don't have to, it's a practice. Again, we don't have to have it all figured out immediately, but just every time we choose to connect and come back to ourselves, we're giving our bodies and our minds and our spirits a gift.
And remind me correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't you started integrating like yoni steaming and then other that work into your practice? Or
so I have gotten my certification, and it has been on the back burner in the past few months.
I didn't mean to, call you out there, but I knew you've been doing it. Yeah.
I love that you brought that up, because it's been something that I've been like, you need to start integrating that. I'm like, and I need to, like, I want to start integrating it more for myself as well. It's one of those things, like I did the training and I was like, that's so cool. And then it has just been sitting back here. So I think that that's a lovely call into consciousness.
I was called to remind you.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you did, because it's been like prickling in the back of my mind, like, I'm ready. Come on, let's do something with this.
All right.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
There you go. There's the push.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So the last thing that I want to do before we, sign off and you tell folks where to find you and I'll put all your links and whatnot is, I don't know. I was feeling called today as I was preparing for this. I'm going to pull a goddess power card to set up the season.
Yes.
To learn from what we've chatted about today. And especially since we have the new moon in Taurus tomorrow, as we're recording this, I thought, why not? Let's do it.
Love a good card pull.
Right? And it's been so fun because baby boy's been kicking throughout this conversation as well. So that's been really, he's co-signing. He's like, yes, mamas.
Yes, queen. Wow. Tauruses and Leos, there's a lot of connection there, I've found.
Interesting. Well, I pulled Mama Qocha, which is water, which is so funny because we've been talking about earth, but I'm sure there's something here and why I was called to pull it.
Earth and water balance each other.
That's right. Okay. The world we inhabit began from the oceanic waters of life and the waters that surrounded us in the womb. Aww, so we're talking about the baby, both which are the domain of the Incan goddess Mama Qocha. We are most attuned to the qualities of water as the element of water symbolically represents our emotions. Our emotions move us to make and perceive the world as we know it. The beauty in this truth is found by observing water in all her properties and forms. Water's fluid and passes through cracks and flaws in the ground without stress, moving around obstacles and patiently wearing away the most jagged rocks until they're smooth and gleaming. Water ebbs and flows, comes and goes in a powerful rhythmic motion as the seas and oceans reveal their promise of release and return. Water rises up from the ground and seeds the clouds and then rains upon the earth to ensure growth and sustain life. Water turns to hard ice and blankets the world in a protective shell, even of soft snow, allowing the dormancy of life to herald a time of dreaming. Then the ice melts and the cycles begin again. The answer to your question lies in determining what form of water reveals the conditions of your life and then recognizing the next evolution of your life's potential. If you're in an ebb, you can expect a flow. If things are temporarily frozen, soon they'll melt. If it seems that your world is too wet and temporary shelter is needed, you can expect new growth and sunny days again. Mama Qocha reminds you that the waters of your life are perfect as they are now and just as perfect in the way they'll evolve. Unlimited potential is revealed when this goddess comes to visit. Oh my gosh, that's so relevant.
Yes. Yeah, I love that.
Basically, what we're talking about.
It's all coming for you and in its own good time.
Its own time. Its own time, its own season. Yes. And just allowing the surrender of it all. So beautiful. Surrender and ground and yes. So where can people find you? You're amazing. I have a little, ticker here that I'll put so that people don't have to memorize things, but there it is. There's her website.
Look at you. I love that.
I know.
And I didn't tell you to put my podcast on there, but
that's right.
The Practically Well podcast is where I hang out. And actually, pretty soon we're in the works right now, but my mother and I are going to be starting a podcast soon. Name TBD. We're like in infancy stages, but we're going to be talking a lot about mother-daughter relationships, healing in terms of the female lineage, navigating day-to-day stuff, because we all women have had mothers, and not everyone is a mother, but everyone has one, and everyone has been a daughter. So there's a lot of healing that can come from that conversation. So that'll be in the works soon as well.
Oh, well, we'll definitely keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, you can see Hannah's services and offerings. I know we talked a lot about acupuncture, but can you just quickly rattle off what are some other things that you can provide to clients?
Yeah. I also do life coaching or like life health coaching. We kind of infuse the two together, and it's kind of like Chinese medicine life coaching, if I identify it that way. I also do Reiki energy healing. And then if you're interested in the kind of more cosmetic side of things, I do facial rejuvenation, acupuncture, and microneedling.
Ooh, fun, fun, fun. So yeah, check that out. Follow Hannah on IG at Soul and Lune Wellness. You're amazing. I love you. Thank you so much for agreeing to be I mean, obviously, if we're going to talk about Taurus season, you were my number one pick as my bestie Taurus friend. So I really appreciate you and just seeing your growth and your evolution in terms of stepping into your gifts as a healer has been really cool. And for me personally to benefit from the fruit of that flavor has been really cool.
Well, and thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure. And it's funny, I was thinking a few weeks ago, I said, I need to do something with Rowena again. And then literally an hour later, I got her email about this. So
We're just so connected. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So wonderful. Well, that's what we have today for Taurus season. Tune in next month on June 16th, the space in the green room that I went accidentally today. So
I'm really excited about you.
that's how life works, but we're just going to go with the ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
I'm going to be talking to my Gemini friend, one of my oldest friends. We've known each other since high school, Janine Mahoney, and we're going to be talking about the path to finding your soulful voice. So talking about creativity. We did musical theater together in high school. So how can we tap into the arts to find our voice, how to really tap into that Gemini energy. So yeah, stay tuned, keep an eye out. We'll be posting all about it, and we're continuing on with the zodiac calendar. So 2 down and then a lot more to go. Thank you so much for being here. If there's any questions that may have come up, let us know. Put it in the comments or the show notes, and we'll get that squared away for you. But until then, have a great Taurus season for what's left of it. Happy new moon in Taurus, and we'll see you in Gemini season. Take care, everyone. Bye.